Hello, friends. This is Charles Bird, and welcome to the November 2nd, 2020 edition of Rant and Thoughts, the election special. Okay. In today's installment, I will reveal my choices, my ballot picks, who I'm voting for, why I'm voting for them, how I will be voting on some ballot propositions, and why I'm voting that way. Now I've decided that I will wait till tomorrow to vote. I will vote my ballot, probably at my workplace or right here at home, and hand deliver it to the clerk recorder's office sometime tomorrow. It's not set in stone. There's a lot that can be said or done that could change my mind. So, without further ado, for President and Vice President Jo Jorgensen and her running mate, Jeremy Cohen, also known as Spike Cohen, of the Libertarian Party. Dr. Jo Jorgensen was Harry Brown's running mate in 1996. She's an academic and an entrepreneur. She has not even the slightest hint of scandal in her personal history. She is a mother and a grandmother, and she'll restore class, decorum, honor, and civility to the White House while working hard to make America a happier and freer place. Her running mate, Spike Cohen, I originally was skeptical of him, because of his association with Vermin Supreme and his novelty campaign. But once I started hearing him in debates and in interviews addressing the issues with gravity, the gravity that they deserve, I became more and more impressed with him. He's a very impressive communicator with libertarian ideas, and he has this very amazing command of social media. It's the best ticket we've had since 1996. I like to think of it as the golden ticket. Now, there are those of you who say that I am turning my back on the pro-life movement because I am voting for someone like Jo Jorgensen. To that, I say her neutrality on the issue of abortion should not be taken to mean that she is pro-abortion. If she were truly pro-abortion, she would be fetishizing it and making a religious sacrament of it and demanding taxpayer support of it the way someone like Kamala Harris would. So no, I don't believe she is pro-abortion. Actually, what she would do is she would get the federal government out of the issue and end federal funding for Planned Parenthood and the practice of abortion, which makes her a lot better on the issue than Donald Trump, who repeatedly signs Planned Parenthood into law year after year while lying through his teeth to his supporters that he is pro-life. There are those of you who say that Joe Jorgensen has no chance. To that I say, I don't care. I don't vote like I'm betting on horses. Because, and I'm putting this as generously as I know how, I'm not an idiot. You see, I don't care who's going to win. I don't care. Well, of course, I would care that Joe Jorgensen would win. That's what I want. But I don't care that. I really don't care what her chances are. Let me put it that way. I don't care what her chances are. Is she going to win? Is she not going to win? I don't care. It's not about who I think will win. And I won't say who I think will win because I don't want it taken as an endorsement. But I don't care about that. That's not important to me. I vote for who I think should win. And the candidate who should win is the one who is truly anti-war, truly in favor of the Second Amendment, somebody who does want to limit the federal government, and that's Joe Jorgensen. You know, I am not going to vote for the gun-grabbing socialist or the other one. I am not going to vote for the warmonger or the other one. I am not going to vote for the credibly accused sex predator or the other one. And I don't look at it as I don't look at voting as a chess move. Okay, I don't buy the argument that knowingly voting for a candidate that is a scoundrel, that is a liar and a cheat, and a lot of other foul and awful things is a chess move towards the country that you want to live in. No. And the fact that there are so many successful politicians out there that are like that is not just an indictment of those politicians. It's an indictment of those who put them in office. It's an indictment of you who voted for Donald Trump. An indictment of you who support Joe Biden, knowing full well who they are, what they are, You know, character counts. It really does. And I'll be voting for the hockey playing, bourbon drinking grandma from South Carolina. Not the shady real estate developer who kicks little old ladies out of their homes to build parking structures for their limos, and not the career politician who spent most of his decades of, quote, public service, end quote, in the pockets of credit card companies and banks. The U.S. House of Representatives, District 10. I'm leaving it blank. The incumbent is a man named Josh Harder. He does not represent the Valley in Washington, D.C. He represents the Bay Area. He's got Soros and Steyer money behind him. I don't know if he's doing it this year because campaign volunteers ever come out to the, very seldom, if ever, come out to the airport district. But when I was still living in Northeast Modesto and he was campaigning for his first term in 2018, he would have all these hipsters bust in from the Bay Area, knocking on our doors for like 3 times a week. Yeah, had a lot of fun slamming the door in their faces too. So you know he's very much on board with Bernie Sanders, the squad, and that ilk. Unfortunately, his opponent Ted Howes, he's in a previous campaign he adopted Trump's strategy of appealing to xenophobia and fear, specifically of those who are of Islamic faith and Middle Eastern ethnic origin. When the Modesto Bee got a hold of some stuff he put on social media, he very stupidly denied it, and then, dumber still, frantically tried to scrub everything from his social media platforms, even though there's this thing called snip and sketch, screenshots. So there are people out there smart enough to have taken screenshots of that stuff, and it's still out there for the whole world to see for all eternity. And I just got to say one more thing before I go on to the next race. In the late 90s, I subscribed to the Institute for Justice's newsletter because when I was going to college, I had ambitions to be a lawyer. So I liked the work that they were doing, and I followed the Vera Kochen case. I also remember John Stossel covering it for ABC. And that told me everything I needed to know about Donald Trump and who and what he was. How he would go into towns, bribe local officials, and use them as hired goons, thugs, to run people out of their homes or shut down their small businesses just so he could build his casinos, his hotels, his golf courses. And in the Vera Kochen case, he wanted to destroy this little old lady's house that she had lived in for 4 decades and wanted to leave to her children, just so he could build a special garage for his limousines. His limousines. And he would go around the country, actually the whole world, and do stuff like this. And then he'd brag about it, like he was doing the world a favor. Fast forward to 2015, when it was becoming more and more apparent that Trump's campaign was going to become more than just a flash in the pan novelty campaign. I tried to warn my Republican friends, warn them about Donald Trump's involvement in eminent domain abuse. Tried to explain to them that if this is his attitude towards property rights, then what's going to be his attitude towards the rest of our rights, like the right to keep and bear arms, the right to due process, which, of course, we later found out about in early 2017, when in front of an approving Dianne Feinstein, who he donated money to, that he likes to take the guns first and go through due process second. So I tried warning my Republican friends about this. And do you know what one of them said to me? What his response was? And this is a man I don't talk to anymore, because he's I just don't talk to him anymore. But you know what he said to me when I told him about that? When I tried to explain to him about the Vera Kochen case? He said, quote, "I don't care how many senior citizens he kicks out of their homes, as long as he nukes me some sand." And that told me everything I needed to know about the type of people Donald Trump attracts. And that was the sort of person Ted Howes tried to attract with those posts on his social media pages. Okay. State Assembly, District 21, Joel Gutierrez Campos, a Republican. I checked him out. He's legit. He's a National Guardsman. He genuinely loves this community, and he wants to represent us in Sacramento. I really do believe he's a genuine article, and if we put him in Sacramento, and if we keep communicating with him, I think he'll be receptive. The incumbent, Adam Gray, is Gary Condit's son-in-law. And, the dirtbag himself may be in Arizona hiding from process servers, but his kids and grandkids are still lurking about. I really don't want to know what tricks Adam Gray learned at the feet of that master. Ugh. Okay. Judge of the Superior Court. John R. Main. The first thing I look for in a judicial candidate is broad legal experience. He has it. He's been a prosecutor. He's been a criminal defense lawyer. He's done a lot of work in civil law as well as mediation. And that's very important to have, and I will tell you why. During the O.J. trial, the O.J. Simpson trial, the judge who presided over it, Lance Ito, he was only a prosecutor before becoming a judge. He wasn't a defense lawyer. He never had any experience in civil law either. And because of that, he didn't see what the dream team was going to come up with. He didn't see that coming. If he had broader legal experience, he would have known what they were up to. He would have shut it down early, and the outcome of that trial would have been totally different. And that's why broad legal experience is very important to me when it comes to picking judicial candidates. Stanislaus County Board of Education, Trustee Area 4, blank. School boards are they're just ceremonial. The people who run for them are just doing so for the resume bullet points. All they do is just rubber stamp whatever the teachers' unions or Sacramento gives them. So I usually leave such spaces blank, though there have been exceptions. For instance, when I still lived in Modesto City Schools District, I voted for John Walker. Also, and I regret doing this, I supported and voted for Melinda Mason. I think I already told you that story. That was before I learned what kind of person she really is and her true nature. And if Melinda Mason were to ever run for anything again, I would not support her. And if a superior candidate were to be running against her, I would give both time and money to that candidate. Yosemite Community College District, Trustee Area 7, blank, same reason. Proposition 14 authorizes continuing stem cell research initiative. Statute, no. In 2004, the people of California voted to $3 billion on stem cell research, voted for $3 billion on stem cell research. Translation, killing preborn babies in the name of science. $2.1 billion of this money went to beneficiaries with links to the board that doles out the money. Even those who support such research were disappointed with the squandered money and scant results. This new bond costs $5.5 billion and will lead to tax increases to pay back the bond plus the $2.3 billion in interest. Proposition 15 increases sources for public schools, community college, and local government services by changing tax assessment of commercial and industrial property. Initiative constitutional amendment. No. This eliminates the 1980 Prop 13 tax protections for commercial and industrial property. The resulting tax increases would result in smaller businesses and even some regional chains going out of business and more unemployment. Proposition 16 allows diversity as a factor in public employment, education, and contracting decisions. Legislative constitutional amendment. No. I remember what it was like before Prop 209 in 1996. How hard it was for a white working class student to get financial aid because he, didn't belong to a protected class. I remember Modesto Junior College ignoring Prop 209 anyway, and knowing in advance that my applications for financial aid and scholarships were going to be denied because the walls of the financial aid office were plastered with posters reading "Affirmative action is justice." This isn't just white grievance talking. This is my actual lived experience. And I take it as a personal insult when people say that it never happened, that it's not something that that people go through. Affirmative action is not just reverse discrimination, it is discrimination. Period. Full stop. Hiring and admissions policy should be based on merit, not race, sex, or sexual preference. Proposition 17 restores the right to vote after completion of prison term. Legislative constitutional amendment. No. A felon loses his liberties because he lost the trust of society. Parolees, especially those who were convicted of violent offenses, and it should be noted that nonviolent felons such as drug dealers and car thieves already have the franchise, should not be given the franchise until their sentences are complete. Until it can be shown that society can trust them again. Proposition 18 amends California Constitution to permit 17-year-olds to vote in primary and special elections if they will turn 18 by the next general election and be otherwise eligible to vote. Legislative constitutional amendment. No. Most 17-year-olds of this generation have no real-world experience. They are ill-informed on the issues and not mentally equipped to handle tough election decisions. Teenagers who wish to participate in politics should certainly be encouraged to do so in other ways, but voting is for adults. Proposition 19 changes certain property tax rules. Legislative constitutional amendment. No. It's an inheritance tax hike that tampers with the 1980 Prop 13. Not just no, hell no. Proposition 20 restricts parole for certain offenses currently considered to be nonviolent, authorizes felony sentences for certain offenses currently treated as misdemeanors, initiate a statute. Yes. I worked in retail between 2010 and 2017. And I saw firsthand the aftermath of Prop 17 of 2016 with the increase in shoplifting. People could now come into the store, help themselves with whatever they wanted, and walk right out with toothless, meth mouth, ear-to-ear grins, knowing they would get away with it, that we would be getting in, and that we would be the ones to get in trouble if we intervened, and that the police weren't going to do anything about it. I am voting yes on this to reduce street crime by increasing penalties for theft and fraud. The fact that Governor Moonbeam Jerry Brown opposes Prop 20 is reason enough to vote yes. Proposition 21 expands local government's authority to enact rent control on rental property. Initiate a statute. No. This will only worsen California's housing problem by drying up the housing supply wherever rent controls are imposed. This will turn all of California into San Francisco. Proposition 22 exempts app-based transportation and delivery companies from providing employee benefits to certain drivers. Initiate a statute. Yes. AB 5 effectively ended independent contracting in California. It killed the gig economy. The only problem I have with Prop 22 is that it doesn't repeal the stupid law in its entirety. But we'll take our victories when and where we can get them. Proposition 23 establishes state requirements for kidney dialysis clinics. Requires on-site medical professional initiative statute. No. The increase of occupational licensing requirements for dialysis clinics would decrease the number of those clinics and will result in price increases for a treatment that people with kidney issues depend on for survival. And on a personal note, a very dear friend of mine, a man that I consider a second brother, Mike, if you're watching this, I'm talking about you, had kidney problems, had to go through dialysis until he eventually got a transplant. So even though I would be voting no on this anyway, I'm doing this for him. Proposition 24 amends consumer privacy laws. Initiate a statute. No. A government growing revenue generation scheme. That's what it is. The text of this thing is 50 pages long, and it's supported by Tom Steyer's brother. Enough said. Proposition 25, referendum on law replaced money, excuse me. Proposition 25, referendum on law replaced money bail system based on public safety and flight risk. No. The cash bail system is a process that has worked well for centuries. It worked well enough that American governments carried it over from the Anglo-Saxon system. This law replaces a tried and true system with a costly new system where computer algorithms managed by bureaucrats decide who will be released before their trial. This was tried before in New York and it failed. It's another bad Jerry Brown idea that needs to go. Okay. The Liberty Movement. The future. What will happen regardless the outcome of November 2nd? Excuse me, November 3rd. Well, I can tell you right now that staying in the Republican Party and working within the Republican Party to make it better is not the way to do it. It's just an exercise in futility and masochism and pointlessness. We would be thwarted at every turn by neocon and moderate gatekeepers. We know this because this has happened time and time and time again. 2008, 2012 with Ron Paul's presidential runs, Rand Paul taking a crack at it in 2016. The Tea Party movement getting co-opted and turned into a de facto Romney 2012 committee. And now not only do we have them to contend with, we also have to contend with a generation of young Republican activists ranging in age 14 to late 30s who will see the liberty movement as a threat and will resort to every dirty, sneaky, below-the-belt trick to stop us. They've adopted Donald Trump as a role model, and they've embraced his sleazy, win by any means ethics. They think that honor, decency, decorum are things for losers. And that the way to win in politics, business, and life in general is to lie, cheat, steal. So, and that's the fate of the Republican Party, not just the future of the Republican Party, the fate of the Republican Party. That's why it's going to go the way of the Whigs and the Federalists, and we're going to see that in our lifetime. You know, Ronald Reagan would not be a member of today's Republican Party, the direction it is going. Barry Goldwater would not be in today's Republican Party if you saw the direction it was going. Robert Taft would not be in today's Republican Party if you saw where it was going. The Constitution Party. The Constitution Party is no longer a viable vehicle for the liberty movement. Um, 2008, Alan Keyes threw his hissy fit at the end of that convention, and with the help of some really shady people, had Chuck Baldwin, the rightful nominee, removed from the ballot in Florida and California. And since then, it has been dying a slow motion death. Just agonizing and painful to watch. If you ever follow the website American Third Party Report, you'd know what I'm talking about. At least a dozen state affiliates have broken off from the national entity. One of them, Illinois, not only disaffiliated, but actually dissolved because their leaders are now Republicans and are now Trump supporters. New Mexico rejected Don Blankenship, who is the official Constitution Party representative, the official Constitution Party nominee. Rejecting Don Blankenship, who is the official Constitution Party's candidate. They've nominated their own candidate, Sam Tittle. West Virginia, which is Don Blankenship's home state, they nominated their own candidate, Justin Amash. And the first Constitution Party state affiliate to disassociate from the national organization, California's American Independent Party. They've nominated the winning ticket of Rocky De La Fuente and Kanye West. Yeah. Yeah, an outright communist, and his running mate, some pop star who jumped into the political scene because he's mentally ill and on some kind of manic upswing, and his family doesn't care enough about him to tell him to knock it off. So, what is the proper vehicle for the liberty movement? Where do we go? In 2018, I became aware of the Mises Caucus and their efforts to wrest control of the party from the Cosmotarian elements whose who places a higher priority on siding with the left on sundry social issues when the real priority should be ending the wars and ending the Federal Reserve System. So I've followed their efforts for a bit, joined their Facebook group, watched the exchanges, and followed the threads. And I decided then and there to change my registration to Libertarian, which I did in 2018. And then as the presidential election season neared, I took out a paid membership and became more and more involved with the Mises Caucus. And in recent months, I've been made a regional organizer. And I've been made privy to information and given access to resources that I would have never been allowed anywhere near had I remained in the Republican orbit. Because in the Republican world, you only get access to this stuff if you're a high-end donor. But I got to see, before the general public could see it, the agenda for 21, 22, and 24. I can't tell you what I heard. I can't share with you what I know, and I won't. Torture me in any way you can. Bamboo shoots, jumper cables, Baby Shark on continuous loop. You're not going to get it out of me, but all I can say is that it's very exciting, mind-blowing stuff, and I can't wait to be a part of it. You know, were it not for the Mises Caucus, I would be black-pilled. I would just be a black-pilled, cynical non-voter. You know, and the Mises Caucus. We're gonna be shifting the Overton window in the Libertarian Party in the direction of liberty, and the Libertarian Party will be shifting the nation's Overton window in the direction of liberty. You know, and the Libertarian Party, as an institution, it is the fastest growing political party. And I consider it to be the second party. We have a gubernatorial candidate, Donald Rainwater, in Indiana, who is running on a reopened platform against a pro-lockdown incumbent Republican governor and a pro-lockdown Democrat challenger, and is polling well enough in that state to be considered a serious contender. In Arkansas, the incumbent Republican warmonger Tom Cotton thought he was going to run unopposed. Because the Democrats have pretty much ceded that Senate seat to the Republicans. What he didn't know is that he was going to have a Libertarian challenger by the name of Pastor Ricky Dale Harrington, a prison chaplain. Tom Cotton refused to debate him. And the PBS station that hosted the debate, did they cancel the event? No. They gave an hour and a half to Pastor Harrington. And he's polling pretty well over there as well. And there are already 230-something elected libertarians in state houses and city halls throughout the land. The future is gold. And the Republican Party is scared. And that's why they resort to dirty tricks such as filing lawsuits to get libertarian candidates knocked off the ballot in some states. The Democrat Party, the other wing of the Caucistocratic Party, they too are scared. That's why pro-Biden powers that be at Facebook have massacred hundreds, maybe thousands of libertarian Facebook profiles. I'm having to find a lot of my LP contacts at alternative platforms now because they're gone. Sodded. Hell, my number might be coming up soon. They ignore us, they ridicule us. Now they're fighting us. But it's inevitable. The future is gold. No matter which senile, warmongering, gun-grabbing, socialist, credibly accused rapist wins the election tomorrow, the future is still going to look bright for the Liberty Movement, the Mises Caucus, which is the continuation of the Ron Paul revolution. That is where it is living and breathing right now. And the Libertarian Party. And I am excited and honored to be a part of it, and I want you to be a part of it too. So I'm going to leave some links below in the description for you to follow and look at. The Mises Caucus webpage, links to the Facebook and MeWe groups. There's also a Facebook fan page that you might want to look at, as well as the Libertarian Party's official website. All right. Well, I've been on here for almost an hour. My voice is getting a little bit hoarse because I've been having to record and re-record different versions of this just to get this right. And of course, it wouldn't be a Rant-Om Thoughts episode without an appearance from my sidekick, Gizmo. So, vote gold, reopen America, and I'll be doing a lot more anti-lockdown stuff too in the future. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna be getting a hold of some stuff real soon that I'm gonna run by Mayor Brandvold to see if it's something that he could use to help reopen Modesto. So reopen America. Think while it's still legal. And smoke them if you got them. I'm out of here.